This buffalo is a genius. This one's no genius. Neither is this one. But this one definitely is. Why? Look at it, and the place where it's standing. That's a special safe zone where it won't be hurt by any of those lions. Few animals could come up with this strategy. This zone saved the life of an elephant. And here's a kangaroo which also found a zone like this. And now the dog can't do anything to it. How does this work? This African buffalo is surrounded by at least a dozen lions, which are some of its most dangerous predators. But the buffalo has a defense: water. Can you see it? It seems like a small obstacle, not like some moat around a medieval castle, but lions simply hate water, and some buffalo know it. Just like this one from the Masai Mara Reserve. The buffalo walks into the water and stops while a few lions stand on dry land and can only salivate. Several hours pass before the lions decide to give up and look for other, less wet prey. But why is this particular spot so great for the buffalo's safety? Let's take a closer look at it. There's drinkable water all around, as well as grass in case buffalo get hungry. It's like the perfect conditions for a fortress to withstand a siege. All the necessary resources are there, so you can wait as long as you like. The buffalo can stay in the water for a week. It knows that the lions don't have that much time, they're hungry, and will eventually leave it alone. Let's figure out why lions aren't fond of water. One reason is that their bodies are not built for hunting in water. Check out how they swim. Yeah, it doesn't look very graceful. That's because lions have evolved for very different activities. They're great at hunting on land, pushing off dry ground with their paws, pouncing. To make all this possible, nature has given lions relatively short paws and a powerful chest, a combo that's not good for hunting in water. The lions can no longer chase their prey properly once they step off the solid ground. And yes, lions can swim, just like the vast majority of other animals. Rivers often separate the savanna where lions live, so they have to cross them occasionally. While lions are capable of swimming, they're unlikely to chase after buffalo into the water. They're too hard to catch, so it's not worth getting their fur wet. By the way, what about smaller felines? I think everyone knows that house cats are willing to go to great lengths to avoid getting wet. There are some exceptions, but they just confirm the rule. What lies behind this intense dislike of water? Researchers studying animal behavior have several theories on that. One of them suggests that cats have evolved in an arid climate and have had little contact with water, so water, well, except drinking water, is something unfamiliar to them. And it's always better to stay away from something you don't know. However, this theory doesn't hold up given the fact that wildcats can get into the water if they need to. So, I prefer the theory that says cats just don't like the effect water has on their fur. The cat that Steve and I have spends most of her time grooming herself. Wet fur is a very uncomfortable thing because it takes a long time to dry and probably doesn't look the way a cat would like it to. If your hair's long enough, imagine waking up with a crazy mess on your head after sleeping with your hair wet. That's roughly what cats experience when their hair gets wet. Plus, wet hair is heavier than dry hair and makes your cat less nimble. Also, water washes out important pheromones essential for marking, tracking, and even mating. And even if your cat hasn't been out with other cats since birth, it will still remember those pheromones and avoid getting wet. But let's get back to lions, as these predators have the ability to adapt to water hunting given the right conditions. In a remote corner of Africa, nature is breeding a new species of super lions right now. 30 years ago, the river changed its course and formed a small, sandy island that covers 77 square miles. On this island, a huge herd of buffalo and lions were trapped. Although the island did have some wildebeests and warthogs, they were in such small numbers that the island turned into a curious ecological experiment. To survive without their usual prey, such as zebras, giraffes, and impalas, the lions had to try very hard. Just imagine, there's water all around and you can only hunt buffalo, which use that very water to escape. The big cats have had to adapt and have become a unique species that some even call swamp lions. They hunt buffalo by deliberately driving them into the water, where they take on those who are weaker or younger. The lions have hunted like this for years, enduring the blazing sun, crossing rivers, never venturing out after dark. This training regimen on the water, combined with a diet of protein-rich buffalo meat, led to the development of enormous muscles. Mainland lions now seem dwarfed compared to swamp lions. Even the lionesses in this pride are the same size as the male lions from the mainland. But alright, fortunately for buffalo, such swimming lions only exist in one place. Although you don't have to get in the water to feel relatively safe in the wild. Look at these two buffalo. They're geniuses too, even though there's no water near them. Have you ever wondered why many herbivores gather in huge herds in the first place? That's right, to create a 100% safe zone. It's located in the very center of any herd because predators, quite logically, prefer to hunt the animals that are on the outer edge or have fallen behind altogether. What's the point of making your way to the center of the herd if you're likely to be trampled to death on the way? So, being in the center means staying safe. This phenomenon even has a scientific name, the dilution effect. It means that the larger the group of prey animals, the less likely it is that a particular individual will become a victim in. It's no coincidence, by the way, that buffalo, forced to fight for life next to swamp lions, formed a herd of 1,200 individuals. That's 5 times more than the usual buffalo herd. I don't know about you, but from this point on, whenever I think about a predator hunting a herd, I'll picture the animals are like, "Please don't let it be me." And this is the Everglades, a national park in Florida consisting mainly of over 2,300 square miles of wetlands. This area is just about the worst place you could choose to raise offspring, especially if you happen to be a bird. Predators lurk around every corner. They steal chicks all the time and eat them, sometimes right in front of their parents. But some birds have figured out how to solve that problem. See this wood stork? Like some other species, for example ibises and egrets, it chooses the perfect strategy. Building a nest as close to the alligators as possible. Think that's not such a bright idea? Actually, the height allows the birds to stay safe. Even the hungriest alligator won't climb a tree to snack on chicks, and potential chick eaters like raccoons won't get past alligators. Turns out that a safe zone for birds is formed right above the alligators. According to recent observations, this has resulted in an increase in the population of wood storks. Now look at the alligator. It might look quite ordinary, but research suggests that alligators living near bird colonies tend to be much fatter than those who don't. To illustrate, a 9-foot alligator residing near such a colony could weigh about 22 pounds more than one that doesn't have any feathered neighbors. Alligators get extra food in the form of chicks, which fall out of their nests either by accident or because they're pushed out by their siblings. Well, or if they're abandoned by their parents, that also happens. In good years, enough food falls from the trees to feed all the alligators in the area. But don't think that alligators are ruthlessly destroying the chicks. They would have died anyway, once they had already fallen out of the nest. It makes no difference who exactly would have eaten those chicks. Well, maybe it does for the alligators. Actually, the relationship between alligators and birds is not like what you see in animated movies, where they make a deal and shake on it. If the predator gets the chance, it immediately attacks the adult bird or slaps its tail on a tree to dislodge more chicks out of the nest. But that's a risk worth taking. And judging by the growing wood stork population, this strategy actually works. It might come as a surprise, but raccoons pose a bigger threat to the chicks than snakes or big cats. There are plenty of videos online of these funny little animals that don't look threatening at all. But if a raccoon thinks about eating something, it's very hard to stop it. That's because nature has given them quite a few unique skills, including an impressive ability to climb. In 2018, for example, a raccoon spent most of the day climbing a 25-story skyscraper in downtown St. Paul, Minnesota. The whole world watched this in horror, but the story has a happy ending. The raccoon climbed to the roof and didn't even fall. Had someone told the raccoon about the ruckus it created, it likely wouldn't have understood why it was such a big deal anyway. Well, yes, it climbed a skyscraper, so what? That's just a regular Tuesday. Compared to that, climbing a tree and finding a nest on a branch seems like a piece of cake. With their strong 5-clawed fingers, raccoons have an impressive level of dexterity. They can easily open clamshells and garbage cans, climb trees, chimneys, and building cranes. Their hind feet can even rotate 180 degrees to make climbing down easy peasy. And if raccoons could talk, they'd probably tell you they have no idea what vertigo feels like. Anyway, when you're dealing with such a dangerous predator, the usual methods of defense just don't work anymore. You can team up with anyone, Alligator, Darth Vader, Sauron, though of course Mordor isn't the best place to raise chicks. For the same reason, some bird species build their nests next to the nests of birds of prey. Raptor species in the Arctic tend to nest far apart, usually between 2,300 to 5,900 feet. The rough-legged buzzard, however, is an exception as it nests just 165 feet away from peregrine falcons. While this may seem too close, it actually serves a purpose. Buzzards take advantage of the peregrine falcon's aggressiveness to keep their own chicks safe. Well, peregrine falcons can take good care of their chicks, so why not use this to your advantage? It's not just rough-legged buzzards that recognize the protective role of peregrine falcons. Barnacle geese, red-breasted geese, and other species of Arctic geese form nesting colonies around their nests. But it's not only about protection, and overall, scientists doubt that the rough-legged buzzards need it so much. The thing is, the presence of peregrine falcons near their nests can lead to an increase in the population of small rodents in the surrounding area as they drive away other birds of prey. So nesting near a peregrine falcon nest is like buying an apartment in a nice neighborhood next to a mall. The benefits are so great that rough-legged buzzards living under the protection of peregrine falcons have nearly twice as many chicks as buzzards that don't. Though protectors aren't always as big as alligators or as aggressive as peregrine falcons, social insects like ants and wasps can be very convincing when it comes to scaring predators away from the nest, so much so that yellow-rumped cacique species takes advantage of this. These birds build nests near wasp colonies whose presence helps protect their chicks from monkeys, snakes, botflies, and other bird species. The red-checked cordon bleu follows a similar pattern. It too has been spotted building nests near wasps, and as a result has produced twice as many healthy chicks as usual. Have you heard people saying that our destiny is in our own hands? I don't know about people, but Brandt's voles do everything they can to create a safe zone, without water or alligators. This is a Brandt's vole, and it lives in the bushes and grasslands of Russia, Mongolia, and northern China. And this is a shrike, a cute but damn cruel bird. When a vole senses there are too many shrikes around, it starts cutting the grass around to better see where the attack is coming from. Let me show you an example. Can you see anything? It's right there. Now imagine that the bird is swooping at you at tremendous speed, and you won't see it coming. No wonder the voles who don't waste their time mowing the lawn die so often. Voles don't eat the grass they cut down. In fact, they don't use it at all. They just cut it and leave it lying around. This behavior is called, no, not landscaping, but ecosystem engineering. In fact, I was surprised to learn about this behavior. I always thought that hiding in the grass was a rodent strategy that helped them survive. But Brandt's voles seem to benefit more from getting rid of the grass than using it as shelter. Natural selection at work. It's interesting to observe how birds of prey behave in response to vole strategies. Birds use grassy bumps as a perch when searching for prey, and as a place to store whatever they manage to catch. But as soon as there's less grass, the raptors try to avoid these places. It's not like birds suddenly develop a fear of open space. It's just that they consider areas without grass as bad hunting grounds and fly away to explore other places. Voles in certain areas have even managed to create a safe haven for themselves, completely free from the threat of bird attacks. By the way, monkeys prefer burned grasslands for the same reason that voles do. Fire is a scary thing for any animal. There must be a very good reason for why monkeys choose to live so close to it and stay there despite all the risks. Seems like scientists figured out these reasons. At any rate, they had some thoughts on cute little vervet monkeys. For the study, an anthropologist observed the behavior of South African vervet monkeys before, during, and after the fires. Turned out that the monkeys sense fewer predators in the fire-swept savanna compared to the unburned grasslands where leopards and other stealthy killers hide. As for scorched land, such areas can deter predators and serve as a safe haven for primates. What's more, research has shown that there are indeed fewer predators in areas after a fire. Also, the vervet monkeys seem not to be afraid of fire. By lighting controlled fires, scientists found out that vervet monkeys, regardless of age and gender, have no fear of fire. And they also understand how it works. As long as the grass was burning nearby, the primates kept eating, grooming, and resting without signs of stress or fear. But when the fire got too close, the monkeys simply moved to a safe distance. Overall, experts believe that primates analyze the details of each specific fire and act accordingly. Perhaps our ancestors were once able to tame fire because they also understood how it works. Now let's talk about this guy right here. This is a southern sand octopus, and it can quickly hide from danger by creating quicksand. Yes, right where the octopus is sitting, standing, whatever it's doing. It quickly shoots jets of water into the sand grains, separating them into an almost liquid state, allowing the octopus to burrow. There beneath the ocean floor, it hides from predators, and it's not a bad strategy for a creature that can't disguise itself. Researchers first caught the octopus burrowing in 2008 when they shone a light on the animal. It spread out its tentacles and injected powerful jets of water into the sediment several times, and then just burrowed into the sand. Scientists also found that the animal used its tentacles and mantle to push away the sand and form a burrow. It also extended 2 tentacles to the surface to create some sort of chimney to breathe through. Finally, the octopus secured the walls of its new home with a layer of mucus, which held the sand grains together so that it would retain the necessary shape. The whole process takes seconds. Despite the octopus's attempts to hide, predators can still find it. When this happens, the octopus collapses its shelter and uses the same quicksand technique to escape from the predator. Now imagine you're not an octopus, but it's prey. Well, I feel sorry for you. There aren't any safe zones that'd save you then. Imagine a coral reef, a beautiful place with a lot of crevices where you can hide from a predator, but only if this predator isn't an octopus. Moreover, octopuses are smart enough to team up with other underwater creatures. For example, grouper fish team up with octopuses to catch prey. Both predators prey on the same small fish, which often hide between the corals. Apparently, at some point, grouper fish and octopuses decided that 2 heads are definitely better than 1 and formed a killer team. The grouper fish drives the smaller fish into the crevice and then turn a paler color to attract the octopus's attention. Then they stand on their heads and wiggle their tails, showing that the delicious meal is right there. The octopus only needs to slip its tentacles into the crevice to grab the prey. There are enough fish in there for both the octopus and the grouper to eat, so both of them are happy. And most importantly, these animals don't just rely on each other. They also actively communicate and even coordinate their actions. It's really hard, especially when you consider what species we're talking about. While both octopuses and grouper fish are aquatic creatures, their cognitive abilities are vastly different. It's as if a man would agree to go hunting with a snail. Be a hell of a slow hunt. What if there wasn't just a single place where the animal felt safe, but an entire island? For thousands of years, birds of all kinds have traveled the planet to find the best place to live. Well, or at least to build nests. Sometimes they stumble upon islands with no natural predators at all. Such places become safe havens which birds, even flying ones, are very reluctant to leave. Take New Zealand, for example. Before the arrival of humans and the rats, cats, and other predators we brought with us, this place was a bird's paradise. With no ground hunters, many of the native species have lost the ability to fly. Among the examples are the kakapo, the takahe, and the wika. Oh, they felt just fine. There was water all around, which kept predators from reaching the islands, which meant there was no threat to the birds on land too. It was a common occurrence for native bird populations to become flightless across different locations, and it happened quite quickly. The phenomenon was not limited to New Zealand. The dodo, which was native to the African island of Mauritius, also lost their ability to fly. But how exactly does a bird stop using its wings? It would seem that wings are literally what sets them apart from other land animals. Becoming flightless means redistributing mass from the front limbs to the hind limbs, as well as reducing the flying muscles because they're too challenging to maintain. Seriously, flying is very energy-consuming for most birds. Becoming flightless requires 2 things: the ability to find food without flying, and few predators in the area. This explains why tens of thousands of island birds can still fly. There are too many animals on the ground who want to eat them. On small islands free of the nerve-wracking encounters with predators, birds have reduced flying musculature compared to their body weight, and their bones rely more on their hind limbs than their forelimbs. And yes, safety is a key requirement. There are places so secure that nature created the same bird twice, perhaps because it really liked the bird's design. It happened somewhere around 136,000 or maybe 240,000 years ago. A flock of clumsy, long-legged birds flew out of Madagascar and arrived on the pristine island of Aldabra. This one. Wow, the birds thought, what a nice place. So they decided to stay. There were no predators on the island, so the birds gave up their ability to fly and enjoyed their life. That is, until a flood happened which washed away the unique species, destroying it completely. In fact, it's hard to imagine how many species in the history of our planet were destroyed like that, overnight. And we know nothing about them because there were too few representatives of the species. But that's a story for another time. Shortly after the island re-emerged, another flock of birds flew out of Madagascar and arrived on Aldabra, and the evolution followed almost the same scenario. That's the bird it came up with. It took about 20,000 years for the birds to give up their wings again, which is very fast on the evolutionary timeline. After studying the fossil, scientists concluded that conditions on Aldabra Island were so good that the same species literally emerged twice. There are some minor differences, but they don't really matter. This strategy won't work for a third time, even if the bird suddenly vanishes from the island. Sadly, Aldabra Island is no longer a safe place for the bird as humans have introduced cats and rats to the area. Don't be too hasty to blame people for destroying the pristine corners of nature. It's true that humans have a history of doing that. However, we've also created safe havens for animals, even though unintentionally. For instance, when North and South Korea signed a ceasefire, they established a demilitarized zone that's been off-limits to humans for 70 years. Barbed wire and thousands of soldiers on both sides guard it against human interference, and as a result, the zone has become a haven for rare wildlife. According to the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Korea, 5,097 species of animals and plants have been found in the area, including 106 species that are endangered or protected. Among others, the Amur leopard and the Siberian tiger, which may well be called the most endangered cats in the world, have been spotted there. Thousands of migratory birds come to this area every year, including the white-naped crane, a very rare species. There are about 5,000 of them in the wild. Now let's pretend you're a monkey, but not a distant ancestor we shared with the apes, but someone modern. For example, a Simango monkey. Yeah, this one. You're a Simango monkey, which means the last thing you want is to be eaten by a leopard or a caracal. Actually, I don't think there's a single living being on the planet that'd want that. Anyway, that's not the point here. You have the perfect opportunity to escape death. All you have to do is stay close to some scientists. Scientists have done experiments by hanging buckets of peanuts at different heights and watching how Simango monkeys react. At high altitudes, the buckets were emptied quickly as the primates felt safe there. At ground level, on the contrary, they ate reluctantly because they could become prey to predators at any moment. That all changed when the buckets were hung up near the scientists' camp. When people were nearby, the monkeys were not afraid to eat from buckets at ground level. And that's actually brilliant. Wildcats are quite wary of humans. Humans hunt them or chase them for killing livestock, so approaching humans is risky. Better to look for a Simango monkey elsewhere. But our distant relatives aren't the only ones willing to use us as a shield from predators. Weirdly enough, moose do almost the same thing, and they seem to have gone even further. Think about it. Moose don't use people, they use the roads they built. When it's time for pregnant moose in Yellowstone Park to give birth, they move as close to the roads as possible. And by as close as possible, I mean that one moose was found 148 feet away from the road. It was a female giving birth. Doesn't seem like the best place to bring a baby into our world, but that's only at first glance, and only if you don't know much about moose life. Brown bears in Yellowstone Park love to hunt moose calves, and the bear population has increased dramatically in recent decades. This is actually great news. It means that all the conservation efforts were not in vain, except that the moose were clearly not happy about the fact that the number of predators that could eat their offspring kept increasing every year, so they had to do something about it. They came up with an idea to scare bears away with the help of people. Apparently, every year, the soon-to-be mothers got closer to the roads to give birth. This is remarkable because usually female moose stay at least half a mile away from roads, but the safety of the offspring is what matters most. If this strategy wasn't effective, the animals would have come up with a new approach by now. As you've already realized, they can get very creative. See you later.